Hey, what's up guys? Hardleg Joe here with your deck profile for the Deskbot OTK deck. I'm just going to go through everything in here, and then I'll explain how it works. So we're playing 2 Deskbot 009, 3 each of 008, 007, 6, 5, 4, 3, and 2. We're playing 1 of 001, and 2 Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragons. For our spells, we have 3 Terraformings, 3 Forbidden Chalice, 3 Forbidden Lance, 2 My Body as a Shield, and 3 Deskbot Base. There are no traps, of course. The extra deck, we have 1 Deskbot Jet, 1 Gigantic Castle, 1 Scarlight Red Dragon Archfiend, 1 Ignister Prominence, 1 Darkstrike Fighter, 1 Black Rose Moonlight Dragon, 1 Goyo Guardian, 1 Naturia Barkion, 1 Kristan Amatrix, 1 Naturia Beast, 1 Great Old One Hastur, a Cyber Dragon Infinity, a Cyber Nova Dragon Castell, and Gachi. The side deck I'll go over in a bit. So this deck is an OTK deck, as advertised, and it runs mostly off of this guy, Deskbot 009. This guy is once per turn during your main phase. You can make this card gain attack equal to the combined attack of all other Deskbot monsters you control, except for itself. Only this card can battle this turn, but when it does battle, your opponent cannot activate cards and effects. So the Deskbots are all about swarming and raising their attack. You can often get individuals up to like 3,000, 4,000 attack just on their own, and combining that all into 009 can get him up to like 17,000 attack, meaning if they have pretty much any monster out on the field, you're going to be OTKing. And they can't stop you because when he attacks, they can't activate anything. Of course, like his name, this is a level 9 monster. In fact, all the Deskbots share that same attribute. Whatever number they are, that's what level monster they are. Which can make some of the bigger ones, like 9, a little bit difficult to summon out. Fortunately, we've got pendulums in here. We've got 2 1 scales and 2 10 scales, which lets you summon everything in the deck except for Deskbot 001 and this Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon. If you're unfamiliar with this card, this is here because you can put it in your pendulum scale, and then during the end phase you can destroy it to search any pendulum monster with 1500 or less attack, which searches all of them because all of these monsters start with a base of 500 attack. Of course, once you get this into the extra deck, you can't summon it back out because you can only summon Deskbot monsters, so it's not the best. I might consider switching it out, but right now that's the fastest way I know of to search through pendulum monsters. Other than him, we just have all the Deskbots, which all have their own unique effects. I'll just go over them quickly. 008 gains 500 attack for every Deskbot in your graveyard, and your opponent cannot target face-up Deskbot cards with card effects, except this one also can make 2 attacks. So this one can be decent if you fill up your graveyard with other Deskbots. It can get up to pretty high attack. 007's the same way. It gets 500 for every Deskbot in your graveyard, and it inflicts piercing damage instead of being able to attack twice. So once again, late game, either of these can be kind of decent, but usually you're going to be using them in your pendulum scales. 6 and 5 are a little bit more useful. Both of them get 500 attack for every Deskbot face up in your extra deck, which you're not going to get nearly as much attack as you will with these ones, but you can. If you're getting some of your pendulums destroyed, then you can get these up to at least 2,000 or so, which just helps with 009. They also both get effects when they're summoned. 006 says that when it's summoned, you can change the battle position of 1 card on the field, and 005 lets you destroy a spell trap, which is really good. This is your main spell trap removal. If you could pendulum summon this and then destroy it and then keep pendulum summoning it out, just using this over and over again can really clear the field of spell traps. This is not as useful, but when you're trying to OTK, sometimes you can use this, turn your opponent's like weaker monsters into attack position to make them prime for 009. As for the non-pendulum monsters, we have 004, who's pretty awesome in certain conditions. This card, when it battles during either player's turn, you can send 1 Deskbot from your deck to the graveyard, except for 004, and this card gains attack and defense equal to its level times 500, which of course is pretty good because we got some really high levels. If you send 009, then you're making his attack up to 5,000, which can get over even like Utopia the Lightning and can crash into it. Of course, your opponent takes no further battle damage the turn you activate this, so not only do they not take damage from this card, but they don't take it from any other cards. But you can use it to clear the field of just about anything, and when it does destroy a monster by battle, you can summon 2 Deskbots with different levels from your hand and or graveyard in defense position. So whatever you send, you can summon that out, and then if you have something in your hand, especially something that gets effects like 005 or 6, you can summon them out. 003, probably the best card in the deck. When this is normal summoned, you can special summon any Deskbot from your deck except for 003, which of course lets you activate some of these other effects. Most importantly, it can get out 9 if you need him, so even if you don't have this in your hand, that's why we only play 2 of them. Really, you could probably even go to 1 but I like to have a backup in case one gets destroyed. But you could search this out as long as you have 003. This has the additional effect that you could target one Deskbot you control. It gains 500 attack and defense for every Deskbot card you control until the end of the turn. And you can activate that during either player's turn. That's a quick effect, which is really useful. You can wait for them to attack and then boost whatever monster they attack. And when you get 5 on the field, adding 2,500, plus because it's every Deskbot card, it adds for the Pendulum Monsters and it adds for the field spell. So you can get up to some ridiculous attack with this guy, which again is just going to be loaded into 009 to make it even more unstoppable. 002 is your searcher. When this is special summoned, you can add one Deskbot from your deck to your hand. And of course, you can special summon it with 3, or you can just pendulum summon it. You can even use, if you have it in your hand, you can use 4, send one of your bigger monsters to attack over something, and then summon 2 from your hand and one of your bigger monsters from the graveyard. This also has the effect that all other machine-type monsters you control gain 500 attack and defense, which is just another, it just adds a little bit more extra attack onto everything, which just every little bit helps out 009. Finally, we have Deskbot 1. This card gains 500 attack and defense for every machine-type monster you control, which means if you have a full field of Deskbots plus this, it's already going to be at 3,000. It's also a tuner, which is how you make all these different synchros. Because we have levels 1 through 9, you can literally make a whole wide array of different synchros, anything you could want. And these are all Earth monsters too, which is how you can make some of your crazier ones, like Naturia Beast, Barkion, and even Goyo Guardian with its errata that it has to be an Earth tuner, which is pretty nice. This also has the effect that if 2 or more machine-type monsters are special summoned at the same time while this is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card, which means if you pendulum summon 2 monsters out, you get it back. If you use Deskbot 004 and summon 2 monsters, then you get this back, which is why we only play 1 of them. Also just the fact that it can't be pendulum summoned because it's level 1. You might want to play Foolish Burial. I did originally, but it kind of slowed the deck down just a tiny bit. The only spell that really has synergy with them, the only Deskbot spells, is Deskbot Base. All Deskbot monsters gain 500 attack and defense, and once per turn you can reveal any number of Deskbot cards in your hand, shuffle them into the deck, and draw the same number of cards. This is really good because it stops you from bricking as much. If you get all your high-level Deskbots, you can shuffle some of them in, and hopefully get some of your lower-level ones. Of course, the 500 attack and defense just adds on to everything you already give. The only downside to playing this is that there's a card called Machine Duplication that lets you target any monster with 500 or less attack and summon up to 2 other copies from the deck. It used to be a staple in the Deskbot decks, but unfortunately Base makes it unusable because all your monsters will have 1,000 attack by default. So if you want to play Base, you can't really play those, and I really want to play Base because I like to pendulum summon, I like to have these high-level monsters. Plus, we're just going for as much attack gain as possible. This has a secondary effect that you can banish 9 Deskbots with different names from your field or graveyard, and then shuffle all cards your opponent's hand, field, and graveyard into the deck, which could be really good, but I've never gotten every single Deskbot, either on the field or on the graveyard, to use it. The rest of the cards in here, we've got Terraforming to search, which doesn't actually negatively impact this deck that much. If you already have a base, you could shuffle your extra copies into the deck and draw another card, hopefully one of your more useful Deskbots. Other than that little bit of search power, everything in here is just sort of defense for your Deskbot, because they don't really have a lot they can do during your opponent's turn except for raise their attack, so you need a lot of ways to protect them. We got Forbidden Chalice to negate effects, and Forbidden Lance to negate spell traps. And these also have the bonus, this will give a monster an extra 400 attack, this will lower attack by 800. So in a deck when you're trying to attack, when you're trying to beat down, these are both useful for protecting, and because you can use those little attack increases and decreases to get over things sometimes. We're also playing My Body as a Shield, kind of an older card. This is activate by paying 1,500 life points. When your opponent activates an effect that would destroy monsters on the field, you can negate and destroy. So this is pretty good. A lot of people don't expect it. It's really good just to play from the hand. You can use it on either player's turn. Really good quick play card. Of course, if you wanted to, you could swap it out for other things. I put here in the side deck, you could play Max C if you want to draw more. Of course, I don't like to do the Max C challenge unless I have something in my hand that can negate attacks. I've had problems before where I activate this and draw like 30 cards, but it doesn't matter because my opponent just OTKs me. We have a lot more synchro monsters in here if you want to swap out for different things. Of course, Darkhold and Raigeki, the Triumvirate of Destruction. You can always play this just because it's an OTK deck. Clear the field and you can attack for massive amounts of damage, but honestly, you don't really need these with 009. You can get him up past 15,000, and then even if they have a face-up Blue Eyes, you're still doing enough damage to OTK them over that. These are only really good against certain decks where they can get like big unbeatable fields. You might want to side these in. Likewise, Call of the Haunted, if they're going to be negating a lot of things, you have to get them out of the graveyard. Call of the Haunted can be really good, especially because a lot of these get effects when they're summoned, like 5 and 2. The rest of these are just one-ofs that do work in this deck. 1-for-1 and Foolish Burial are both really good for 0-0-1 if you wanted to go more synchro heavy. I didn't really synchro that much. I was too busy just beating down. And Reasoning works fairly well in this deck because you have monsters of every level. Unless they guess really lucky, you're going to be able to summon something. And I think that's about it. I guess I didn't really go over the extra deck, but like I said, it's just kind of a toolbox. You want to play the Deskbot Synchro because it has a lot of synergy with them. You want to play at least an Ignister because you've got Pendulum Monsters that you can use to make it. You probably want to play an Aturia Beast and a Barkion because you can make them with the Earth Monsters. And Cyber Dragon Infinity because these are all machines. If you can get 2 Deskbot 5s out, which is not too difficult, you can make Cyber Dragon Infinity. Gachi too, because you're often summoning these Deskbot 002s, and sometimes these can be a little too vulnerable against decks that do like piercing damage, so having something they can go into is useful. The rest of this is just a toolbox. Whatever you feel like doing, you could throw in any level of Synchro, you can throw in any level of Ixie, although getting Ixies out is kind of difficult. So there's your profile for this week. Next week, I'll be taking a look at Abyss Actors by popular request, which should be pretty nice. Until then, good luck, have fun.